Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, welcome back to the Daily Palace podcast. I'm Joe Lodge, and with me today is Wale Bakare. How are you doing, Wale?
Great to be on the pod tonight, Joe. How you doing? Hope you had a fun Christmas.
Yeah, it was fun, thanks, mate. It was fun. I'm feeling the effects of it now. You can't tell owing to the consistent nasality of my voice all year round, but I'm a bit bunged up, a bit of a cold at this point, and generally feel my body's slightly battered. I'm greasy. I'm at max chocolate capacity and had too much mulled wine, but I'm good spirits. I'm looking forward to capping it all off with a New Year's Eve blowout and then heading into 2025 a better and reformed man, I'm sure. Today we'll discuss the Eagles' 2-1 home win over Southampton before finishing up with a little quiz. So, starting with the match, what do you think, Wale? Good Palace performance, well-earned 3 points?
Well, yeah, well-earned 3 points, important 3 points, I have to say. I was making the joke that Southampton were bottom of the log. Bottom of the league. Everyone sort of expected Palace to get a result against Southampton, and if you're going to be taken seriously as regards your Premier League ambitions, you then need to get results against the teams below you and maybe those ones around you. And after a very inconsistent start to the season for Palace, the last couple of weeks we've seen the team grinding our results and building some level of momentum. So anything other than a win against Southampton would really have thrown spanners to the wheels of whatever Glasner was doing. So it was a needed result. It was a deserved result overall. Southampton shaded possession, so to speak, because of the kind of football that they play. There's been individuals who said the type of football they play might be the reason they wouldn't be in the Premier League next season. But Palace looked very dangerous. Yes, Southampton created a couple of chances, but the bigger chances in the game were created by Palace. Ramsdale made some interesting saves in the game, and overall, Palace looked like the side with with more bite, so to speak, of the two sides, and that they totally deserved the result. But for me, describing the result, it's a very, very needed result. Yes, deserved, but more needed, for Palace.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right there, Wale. Definitely, it's surprisingly the expected goal stats actually did have the game about 2-1, which really shocked me because I felt like Palace had tons of great chances to score. They didn't take, as you say, partly due to really good performance from Aaron Ramsdale. But I think it was very encouraging. I mean, Southampton seem to have changed the way they play a little bit under Juric again. It's early days, but I don't think they quite present chances in the same way. They went long quite a lot. Didn't do as much kind of kamikaze tiki-taka, and I think that forced Palace to play through them a bit more intricately, be a bit more creative, in a way they've struggled to quite often this season. We've seen them do really well in the back end of last year, and this year when a team's in a sort of deep block against Palace, as Southampton kind of got into a few times in defence, they've often looked a little unsure of how to deal with that. And in this game, that wasn't the case. You can see just the kind of confidence and understanding the team have built up between them is allowing them to pick the lock when teams are entrenched a bit like that. A couple of good examples where there's a good Lerma effort in the first half, isn't there, which comes after some really nice interchange between like him, Hughes, and Eze, and then there's a point where Sarr almost manages to cut the ball across for a tap in from Mateta again. Ramsdale does well to cut it out, and that one came from I can't quite remember who with, but Hughes playing another like lovely 1-2 and then delicate little pass into perfectly weighted kind of little ball into this tiny bit of space which Sar's running onto. Palace's ability to just grind teams down like that, I think, was really encouraging to see. They don't have to rely, if they can keep that up, they don't have to rely entirely on sort of Mateta flicking balls onto Ismaila Sarr anymore. Which players stood out for you in this game, Wale? Who do you think were the key men in getting Palace over the line?
Well, when you put it like that, getting over the line, then it has to be Eze. But then I was going to say player of the match for me was Trevor Chalobah. It was, the game against Southampton was the perfect game for Matt Gay to be missing because of accumulating 5 yellow cards. So that game presented an opportunity for Richards, of course, who came in for Gay. Richards, remember, I think came in for Chalobah a couple of weeks ago. So it was there was a new individual. It was a new dynamic, so to speak. Chalobah, Richards, and Lacroix in the center of that 3-man defense. And I was a bit worried because we've seen a couple of times this season where new players coming into the back line have affected, the performance of the defense. But Chalobah held his ground, just like the other guys anyway. Chalobah did good in the game, took his goal well, just as he continues to show his predatory instincts in the box, and we saw that again against Southampton yesterday. So for me, it was that player that stood out for me. Of course, I was particularly glad for Eze getting that goal. Glasner was speaking after the game about how recent events have appeared to have gotten to him. He's been feeling a bit unlucky of recent at the injury, so he's had a somewhat stop-start season. And getting that goal yesterday, a trademark finish, a wonderful shot, putting it in a very great place, far beyond the reach of Aaron Ramsdale. And you could see in his reaction after the goal that there was some sense of relief for him. So that he's another player that did good. But when you look at the entire forward line, they kept, just as you mentioned earlier about the interchange of passes, creating chances, they looked dangerous and they looked like they could out Southampton. A lot of times in that game, Ismaila Sarr had a great game. Will Hughes continues to, I don't know whether I can say continues his rejuvenated form, so to speak, but he continues to play well, and the attacking players just did good. But if I'm to pick, one particular player, it has to be Trevor Chalobah, who had a great game yesterday for me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with all those shouts. I think, as you say, Eze's kind of had a tough few games. Not that he's played particularly badly, he's just sort of been a bit unlucky. And you got a sense that he was, as Glaston's been saying about him, sort of trying too hard, trying to force it a bit and not playing relaxed and natural, because he's been bothered by the fact that he's only been on 1 goal this season in the league, up until getting that goal yesterday against Southampton. And I think you could just see it in him that some kind of weight had been lifted. Played with great freedom, great creativity. He had that moment at the end where he flicks the ball up over the Southampton defender. Is it Harwood Bellis? Well, I can't remember exactly who it was. And wins a free kick right on the edge of the box. Nearly pops it under the wall for a goal, and it would have been the most kind of like Ronaldinho-esque goal in Premier League history to win it like that and score it like that. Would have been amazing. I'm disappointed that shot was ultimately blocked by the foot of one of the players jumping in the wall for Southampton. Not it didn't hit Kyle Walker-Peters, who was playing the draft excluder role. line
Yeah.
down behind the ball. Because I realised that I've never actually really, I don't think I've ever seen the ball actually hit the draft excluder. And there is something funny about getting hit on the back of the head with a ball when you're the only one of like 30,000 odd people in the stadium who doesn't know it's coming.
To, to,
It's
to
your
be
own
honest, it's not many times players try to go under the wall anyway. So
Yeah, no. You assume they're not going to try it with him there, do you? But yeah, nearly paid off and really pleasing. And I've also always got to give good credit to my boy Jean-Philippe Mateta just for the everything. Everything was sacrificial. I think from him this game, like he was running the channels really well, really clever. Dummy nearly lets in Munoz to score in the first half, where he kind of looks as if he's going to backheel it and lets it run to man the better position. We'll come on to a discussion about this later, but playing the role of basically there to obstruct the keeper from the corners, which works well and helps Chaliber get that goal. When he might fancy being someone who's there to attack a corner himself with his size and aerial prowess. Happy to again do the sacrificial role for the benefit of the team, and spent all game kind of dropping deep to win headers onto Sarr and stuff. I thought it was a proper, good leading man's performance. The only thing it was short of was him being able to grab a goal himself, but he's earned himself one of these from me. Boom sound effects.
I bet he would end that on the bench for you. You're going to look at him and say, did you see the way he was sitting on the bench? He just sat so calmly. He's under.
Well, you can just say, I have actually praised his actions on the bench before once. Which game was it? Was it Brighton where he came off and he was like...
Yeah, and then he was...
leading like Ronaldo. I'm like one of those Ronaldo fanboys on Twitter who say, he managed Portugal to the Euros final. Yeah. Jean-Philippe Mateta managed Palace to that win in the derby. Anyway, speaking of things that deserve a boom sound effect, we will stop here and have a word from our excellent sponsors.
Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencaster came out the clear winner. 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencaster.
So one of the major talking points from this match is that Ramsdale, Juric, Southampton, all pretty peeved that Chalobah's goal stood because of a perception that Mateta was obstructing Aaron Ramsdale for the corner, making it hard for him to come and claim by standing there, giving him a bit of a push. Freeing up the goal for Chalobah to head into, taking the goalie out of the equation. They think it shouldn't have stood for that. What do you think, Wale? Do you think they've got a point?
Well, yeah, they might actually have a point, to be honest. However, it's one of those decisions where apparently VAR have stopped with the on-field decision, and we've seen that happen a lot this season, where the VAR officials have just gone with whatever the on-field official has said. I bet if the referee yesterday had cancelled the goal, we would still have VAR probably saying, yeah, there was an infringement on Aaron Ramsdale. But overall, it was one of those that was on the borderline. It could have gone either way, to be honest. In virtually every game this season, especially with the corner kicks, you see a lot of interesting setups with corner kicks. Arsenal are the most interesting this season. We've seen Liverpool almost sort of copying that without shame in the last couple of games, as well. But every team, but one thing that is that we continue to see is there is always one attacker on the goalkeeper. The goalkeepers, for some reason, don't mind a bit of a pushback or back and forth as well. Some of them tend to get carried away in that, and that's the job of that person on the goalkeeper. You're trying to get in the goalkeeper's head. You're trying to distract him from focusing on the ball. Was the push? There was definitely an and from Mateta. Was that enough for our Ramsdale collapsed like a pack of cards? I don't think so. Goalkeepers need to be stronger than that, on their line. Sometimes we've so particularly I've come out to say maybe goalkeepers tend to get too much protection, in their goal, because sometimes you find the slightest touch and there's a foul, and that for me yesterday was borderline. I could see reason why the referee thought that's not enough, and I could see reason why the VAR officials agreed with the referee. But at the same time, if the referee had given a foul, we probably would be here saying, yeah, maybe they were right to give a foul, because it was just very close. But Ramsdale has got to be stronger than that. That is something we see in almost every corner kick these days. It will get that sort of attention again we kept seeing that yesterday, but he will get that again. I hope he's learned from it for their sake anyway. But as far as yesterday's goal was concerned, if that had happened in the Palace box, I'm sure Glasner would also, have quite similar opinions to Ramsdale and Uric and a lot of Southampton fans and a lot of other people out there. But it wasn't really a lot in it, to be honest. But as I said, if the on-field official had given a foul, I wouldn't have been surprised if VAR had said, yes, that's a foul. But if I had to pick a side, it wasn't too much in it, to have been given as a foul, and it was a good goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely an interesting one. Southampton don't often get a point, but they might have one here. It is quite difficult to. It basically makes corners really difficult to defend. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I guess, is what determines whether you'd see that as a foul or not. Glasner's press conference was very interesting. His interview post match on that topic. I didn't fully catch everything of what he was saying because I was distracted by the jumper he was wearing, thinking, I'm sure that's my nan's tablecloth. But it was like, he said that they'd had a discussion earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd said, oh, this is kind of said it's allowed. That kind of jostling is allowed in the Premier League. So he was suggesting it is a foul basically everywhere else in the world except in England. And that the theory is that's entertainment value. So if you like teams scoring for corners, I mean, Arsenal do this, right? This is a big part of the reason that Arsenal get so many corner goals is the way they are able to put people on, obstruct the keeper's path, make it difficult for them to come out. If you like the fact that corners are now a major weapon, then it's a good rule, I guess, and the goal should stand. And if you think it should be a bit harder to score, then maybe it's not a good thing. I like corners.
I just wonder because with situations like this, consistency then becomes the problem because if it's that close, then you would have situations where another referee is given a foul and you're thinking, well, that wasn't a foul in Crystal Palace against Southampton. We've had cases of borderline calls like that where things haven't been consistent. I think earlier on in the season, it was the situations of players kicking the ball away. A couple of Arsenal players, kicked the ball away, got a second yellow card, got a red card. And then I think it happened with Dominic Szoboszlai, although the argument then was Liverpool were trailing and it wouldn't have served them any better to have wasted time. But we've seen cases where someone's come out to say, well, he's just kicked the ball away. If it was a red card in that game, why is it not a red card in this one? So the issue of consistency will then, come to play. And then at what point is it too much? because it was obviously a subjective decision. Glasner, yes, would give a very interesting answer saying we had the discussions at the start of the season, but I really will say again, I'm not sure that's what he'll be saying if that happened in the Palace box, honestly.
I'm sure he wouldn't. I mean, I almost got from what he was saying, like, a sense that he thinks it probably should be a foul, but isn't, and they're deliberately using that strategy that they've been told they can do, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do and fair enough. Just to sort of wrap up the discussion of this match, how important a win is this for Palace? How important is it that they do actually get 3 points against Southampton, beat the team who are kind of emerging quite clearly as the weakest team in the league and the one that a lot of others are going to be able to grab 3 points off? How vital is that for Palace?
Well, the Premier League is shaping up to be one where every point will be important. It's quite uncertain what to expect, both at the top of the table and below, except for maybe Southampton who are finding themselves further adrift from the pack. But it was a very important win for Palace. They went 6 points above Leicester, who for some reason respected Manchester City too much and just thought they couldn't, get a result. Everyone's beating City at the moment. I don't know what they were thinking, but it was an important win for Palace. The performance was also crucial. The nature of the win was also important. Coming back from a goal down, that's not something we've seen a lot from Palace this season. What we've seen is Palace conceding and scrapping out a draw, but everything yesterday just had the hallmark. Just had a win or a comeback written all over it. Palace were creating chances. You mentioned some of the saves by Aaron Ramsdale. Ismaila Sarr could have, gotten a goal. Daniel Munoz, for some reason, hit the back of a Southampton player's leg when it was right in front of the goal line. Palace created enough chances. They seemed like they were always going to get the result, but we've seen teams play so well and are unable to come back in a game. So the manner of the win, the fact that they got 3 points against a team that was bottom of the league, where a team where virtually everyone's getting all the points they can against at the moment. It's quite a sorry situation for Southampton, but it was an important result for Palace. They were playing at home. I think Palace lost at home, was it Fulham the other day? And that was a result that a lot of Palace faithful did not enjoy watching. Another loss at home would have been catastrophic, especially against Southampton. So it was a great result. 20 points on the board. Another 20 usually would, keep you safe in the league. But although that is a bit far cry from what the expectations of Palace fans were at the start of the season, but realistically speaking, survival has to be what is on the top of the minds of Olivier Glasner and the boys. And the result against Southampton was a very, very good one. And to be honest, I look at Palace and when you look at the teams in the, I told Palace are not necessarily involved in the relegation battle, but when you look at, Leicester, maybe not Wolves, because Wolves for some reason create a lot of chances and they're looking good at the moment, particularly. But when you look at Leicester, Everton, Ipswich, and Southampton, sometimes the issue is the number of chances they create, and you just worry about. But for Palace, even when the results weren't going their way, they've always been able to fashion out a chance. They've always had players that were dangerous. So they've always looked a little bit different class, so to speak, to some of this team. So some of the results that Palace have gotten this season haven't been entirely deserved because, they've played well in some games and only been able to get a draw. They've played well in some games, just not been able to get over the line. But in the last couple of weeks, they've been grinding out results, and that one against Southampton was a very critical one for the team.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there, Wale. It's it basically going into the second half of the season, that win puts Palace in a position, as you say, on 20 points, and I think with that comfortable that comfortable gap between them and Leicester, they'll be looking up coming in the second half of the season, thinking how high can we get up in the table, not looking down and worrying about how far they can fall. I think it'll be a good confidence booster. And as you say, the nature of it is a good confidence booster because they've found ways. I think they created chances in kind of three major different ways, which were some like the Sar one, direct on the counter attack, some of the ones that are really intricately worked around the box, and then really maximise their threat from set pieces. Three very different ways of scoring goals depending on what the game state is, and a more comfortable position in the league. Like great takeaways for Palace, and yeah, I think they will now be thinking about how much further they can climb, and that's a good place to be in the middle of the season, particularly given how the first 7 games went for them. So yeah, all quite positive, I'd say. We'll have a little break now for a word from the network before finishing with a super quick corner quiz.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
So yeah, we've been talking about them a lot. I thought it'd be a good time for us to have a quiz about corners. So I've spent half an hour picking some gems out of the Wikipedia page for the corner kick historically, corner kick through time. So let's do let's call it a corner kickopedia quiz. Having not had time to make a pun before the podcast, that's the best you're getting today. 3 questions for you, Wale. 2 are multiple choice, 1 isn't. Do we have a prize? My cat is sometimes referred to as Corners, because her full name is Cornflakes, and she's in the room, so I can bring her to the screen to congratulate you if you get.
I'll take that.
Excellent. Right. So your first question, Wale, is what is the name for a goal, term used to describe a goal scored directly from a corner? Is it A spectaculo, B a fantastico, C a Olympico, or D wind assisted flucio?
It's a Connor. It's a fantastical.
Is that your answer?
Is it? Yeah, that's my answer.
Unfortunately not. It's an Olympico. I don't know why. I don't know what's particularly Olympic about
football. Football wasn't even originally part of the Olympics.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows where that came from? But yeah, Olympico, or sometimes an Olympic goal in the English language as well, which I think we can all agree sounds worse. Your next question. In the 2002-03 season, Villa conceded a calamitous goal against rivals Birmingham City. Goalkeeper Peter Enkelman allowed an Olaf Malberg back pass from a throw-in to roll into his own net. Why did Villa manager Graham Taylor argue a corner should have been awarded instead of a goal?
Is that a multiple choice one?
No. Olaf Malberg threw the ball back to Enkelman. He let it roll into his own net, but Graham Taylor thought a corner should have been awarded instead of a goal. Why?
That's a tough one. I can't remember. I remember the names involved, but I can't remember the game. I'm just looking for the most common sense reason anyone would think it should be a corner, but not a lot of managers. Not a lot of managers give common sense reasons. To be honest, Did you think that the ball wasn't hit with the leg? And
Sort of.
ah,
You're along the right lines there.
but that's the best I can do. Did you think the ball wasn't hit with the leg, and he thought if it wasn't with the leg, then a corner kick should have been given instead?
I can, you know what? I'll give you that, Wally. So basically, the argument was that Enkelman, as a keeper, didn't touch the ball, and if you score an own goal directly from any restart in play,
Yeah.
be that your own corner, your free kick, your kickoff, whatever it is, or throw in, that strangely is a corner to the other team rather than an own goal for don't know what reason, but that is the rule. It turns out. Graham Taylor, the ref on the day, can't remember who it was, insisted that he believed Enkelman had touched the ball, but Graham Taylor arguing that he
But did he touch the ball?
Rules. I don't know. I think it's a bit ambiguous whether he actually does touch the ball or not.
Oh.
Kind of rolls under his foot, so it might kind of clip his studs a bit.
Oh, would have been nice if they had VAR then.
It would have been nice if they had VAR, or for the refs to do the rules, because I think it's been accidentally given a couple of times that kind of go, because it's insane, right? But yeah, fun little weird rule for you there. Last question. So one of the early exponents of the corner kick as a method for restarting the play when the ball went behind the goal line was an anonymous letter writer who proposed the idea to the Sheffield Daily Telegraph. What pseudonym did this writer use? Was it A, Rouge, B, Rouge et Bleu, or C, Marron?
That's wicked options you came up with. Macron.
Unfortunately, it was just Rouge. It was just Rouge. So, bit like last Alice's success rate from corners last season. That's 0% on this quiz. I'm afraid it was actually no, it wasn't. No. So I gave you the last one. It's 33%.
Yeah. Like to be honest, I'm turning out to be Southampton with this quizzes. To be honest.
Yeah. Well. See if you can break Derby's record for the end of the season.
I can never be that terrible. I always remember Kenny Miller's face every game that season, because for some reason he just appeared lost. Like, what am I doing here?
It was the same with
Funny thing, they might have
turned up in January.
I think they did get a victory against Liverpool that season.
Was that the only one? There's only one win, wasn't it? I can't remember who it was against.
Or maybe I'm wrong, but I think they did get. I remember they did get a weird result against Liverpool.
Well, before we become the Daily Derby podcast, I think let's wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me, Wale.
Cheers, Paul. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. As always, if you've listened this far and enjoyed it, give us a 5-star review. It helps us out a lot. And yeah, we will hope you tune in again tomorrow. Ta-ra.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.